welcome you to Phoenix International Raceway, located about 20 miles southwest of downtown Phoenix, Arizona, for the USAC Silver Crown Championship Dirt Car portion of the Checker Classic. And among the drivers that will be participating in today's race, here is Ken Schrader from the NASCAR circuit. Jack Hewitt, who is scraping the mud off a dirt race that he participated in at Manzanita just last night. And also in today's race will be Dave Blaney. The third member of our broadcast team for today is Gary Lee.
It's a most unusual front row for a Silver Crown Championship race. On the pole, rookie Trey House, the first time he's ever been on pavement in one of these cars. And starting alongside the veteran from Prospect Park, Pennsylvania, Bob Ciccone. He's a veteran of many laps out here in a midget. And of course, the regulars behind them, we have Steve Butler and Dave Blaney, Larry Rice. Back in the fourth row, we have NASCAR star Kenny Schrader, and alongside is Steve Chassie. In row 5, the small engine, the Chevrolet V6 of Bob Fry. He's won the Copper Classic 4 times out here, twice in the V6. He should be very competitive. And then starting back in row 7, the veteran Gary Bettenhausen. Twice he's been a National Silver Crown champion. He has a brand new chassis. If the car works, he should be tough.
And the weather here at Phoenix, skies are threatening. There's a 70% chance of rain, but it's warm, 82 degrees with a humidity of 85%. Well, Larry Newber, who is also with us here this afternoon, is in the pace car. Let's go to him.
The Phoenix International Raceway is one of the fastest one-mile ovals in America.
Yes, as a matter of fact, on the straightaway here, Larry, they get up to about 190 to 200 miles an hour.
And then you come into turn number 1. It's the first time the drivers really sense the banking.
And what you like to do is you like to come from up on top, dropping down, because you've got a 9-degree bank, and it allows you to come back up high on the second turn then.
Now, 9 degrees does not sound like very much, but you really get a sensation of being on banking when you're out here on the racetrack.
It's unbelievable when you come off of this bank. As a matter of fact, this turn here is called the dog leg. A.J. Foyt, it's named after because he's the first one in history to have gone full throttle around that second turn.
Lots of room for passing here on the backstretch, which is unusual for a paved racetrack.
As a matter of fact, what it allows you to do is to have several grooves in which to pass, which makes the racing even more entertaining.
And turn 3 and 4 is almost flat out, isn't it?
Absolutely. In fact, they're saying that they can hit speeds of 160 to 170 miles an hour.
So that's a look at the 1-mile paved track here at Phoenix International Raceway. We turned back the clock 24 hours at qualifying yesterday. This is the car of Bob Fry, and it's an unusual car because it is equipped with a V6 motor, and they had some motor problems while they were practice and qualifying, and not only those problems, but it was also raining. However, the crew worked very hard to replace the engine in that car, and they finally got it ready to allow Fry to go out and qualify. But a lot of hard work by this crew on Bob Fry's car that got him out onto the track and for qualifying. Glenn Nibel, you can see there working on the car along with other members of the crew. But they finally got it together, and then he got it out on the racetrack to qualify. And we're just about set now for the start of this 100-lap race at Phoenix International Raceway. And here's a look at the starting lineup. The pole position is held by Trey House in car number 2. Alongside in row number 1 is Bob Ciccone in car number 59. In the second row, it'll be Dave Blaney in car 84 and Steve Butler in 10. The third row has Kenny Jacobs in car number 56 and number 5, Larry Rice. Fourth row, Ken Schrader in 29 and Steve Chassie in 69. In the fifth row, Rick Hood in 28, Bob Fry in number 20. Going to row number 6, it's Tony Elliott in number 18 and Mark Alderson in 51. Row 7 consists of Rusty McClure in 14 and Duke Cook in 44. The 8th row, 79, Gary Bettenhausen, and 85, Andy Hillenberg. Going to row 9, 63, Jack Hewitt, and 26, Wally Pankratz. The 10th row, Jim Mahoney in 50 and Brent Kading in 96. The 11th row, Jeff Loom in 67 and Jeff Swindell in 12. 12th row, Bruce Field in 21, Mike Aldreda in 65. The 13th row, Gary Urban in 48, and Billy Bode in car number 43. The last row, Jim Childress and Terry Kaywell. The cars come off of turn number 4, looking for a green flag that will start this race. And Larry, here we go.
Well, the first big question of this event was how well would Trey House, the pole sitter, respond to the start of this race. This weekend is his first weekend ever on a paved racetrack. He was the fastest qualifier. The old cagey veteran, Bob Ciccone, don't mean old in terms of years, in terms of age, outfoxed him going into the first turn.
And not only that, but Steve Butler has moved into second position, so the pole sitter, Trey House, is in third. Bob Ciccone leads lap number 1. Behind him is Steve Butler, and then Trey House.
Bob, this is a historically significant race. There are a lot of people who still feel across this great land of ours that these are real Indy cars, American style. And this is the first opportunity many people have ever had to see championship dirt cars on pavement.
Bob Jenkins, Larry Newber, and Gary Lee back at Phoenix International Raceway with the championship dirt cars on the pavement. Here's the battle for the lead. That's Bob Ciccone in car number 59. But he's being challenged by Steve Butler from Kokomo, Indiana, the USAC sprint car champion, driving car number 10.
Bob, we have seen that this 1 mile semi-bank configuration of a racetrack has been great for conducive to exciting racing in Indianapolis cars. You can see the same thing is coming true in championship dirt cars. Smoke off of Larry Rice there, hitting the brakes hard, going through the third and fourth turn that in open traffic or with no traffic on an open field is a wide open corner.
Rice is in 5th, Jacobs is in 6th. The car ahead of Larry Rice in car number 5 that you caught a glimpse of a few minutes ago is Ken Schrader. There he is, the black car. He's running 4th and now challenging Trey House on the outside, and he takes over that 3rd position.
Ken Schrader, the current Winston Cup stock car star, is the only one up front making a significant move. The major question for Kenny Darth Schrader for this particular race is to not use up the right rear tire. It's the same question for everybody. That is the most precarious position on one of these upright championship dirt cars. Where on the right rear tire?
Longtime car owner Boston Louis Seymour owns Ken Schrader's car, and as you indicated, one of the major stories in this race as it continues to develop is tire wear. They're running on the pavement, of course, and perhaps we can get a better indication of what Bob Ciccone's team is doing as far as tires are concerned. Let's go to Gary Lee.
Bob Ciccone's strategy from the outside front row position was to get the jump on the rookie Trey House. He did at the start. He leads the race right now. However, Bob is concerned about tire wear on the first gear. He says if he's pressured hard, he'll let somebody else lead. He doesn't want to stay too fast should he wear out that right rear.
So Ciccone continues to lead, but only by about a car length and a half or so over Steve Butler. And Ken Schrader right there also. Here's Gary Bettenhausen in car number 79. He's in 10th place. And right behind him is Jack Hewitt in car number 63, who was so successful on this circuit in 1986.
In terms of geography, today's race is a melding pot. Drivers coming from both coasts as well as several states in the interior of this country. Most of them, of course, graduates from the midget and sprint car ranks. A few of them have spent quite a number of years in races driving championship dirt cars, which you see performing before you today on pavement. There is Ken Schrader, still looking for room to maneuver, trying to move up to the top 2 positions. Ciccone continues to lead, and Steve Butler, the sprint car champion, 3rd. Second.
Good race here. Here's Bob Fry back in 8th position, and Mark Alderson hangs back in 9th. The first 7 cars are running right together, then a break back to Fry and Alderson. Schrader continues to try to take over that 2nd position from Steve Butler. He uses the outside groove going in, then tries to go to the inside. Unable, however, to pick up the position at this time.
Bob, it's always difficult to tell when you're watching a race on TV, but when Ken Schrader came around the number 1 corner of the last lap, there looked like there was something mechanical flopping around on his right rear, left of your screen as he comes by. That time it wasn't quite as evident as it was the last lap by, but Ken Schrader may be facing an unusual situation here mechanically on the right rear.
We'll continue to watch that situation, but it could be that a shock absorber has worked loose on that car, and that would certainly affect the handling of that race car. He goes to the outside of Steve Butler in an attempt to go into 2nd position. Off the 4th corner, they're nearly side by side. Now we go back into the pack and pick up this battle. Gary Bettenhausen, Bob Fry, and Mark Alderson, among others.
Jack Hewitt is involved in that group. Something to keep in mind as you're watching these Silver Crown dirt cars on this racetrack. No aerodynamics involved here. No wings planting you onto the racetrack. No huge fenders or perfectly angled hoods hops and roofs like in Winston Cup racing to keep you pressed down on the racetrack. You are running on sheer glare ice.
Well, Steve Butler once again draws even with Bob Ciccone in turn number 1. It appears to be where Butler's car is working the best, as he's able to challenge Ciccone for the lead in that area of the racetrack. But now Butler's on the inside of the 4th turn and loses second position to Ken Schrader. So we have a new second-place runner. Ken Schrader now trails Bob Ciccone. That is Butler in 3rd and Larry Rice running in 4th.
A couple of laps ago, it looked like Butler, the dirt track specialist, was ready to take over first from Ciccone. He was burning the candle at both ends, so to speak, trying to take over first, but also to hold back Ken Schrader. Ken Schrader gets a big run on Bob Ciccone coming around the very high speed. Turn 3 and turn 4. He's up in the gray matter. He's up in his own groove. Ken Schrader going after first.
They go into the corner, and Schrader finally has the position. So Bob Ciccone leads 1 through 11, and now on lap number 12, it is Ken Schrader who has gone into the lead.
The big question is, did he over-abuse that right rear? We cannot overstress that enough. It is an unknown commodity. They have never gone this distance in this heat on this type of surface.
We're at Phoenix International Raceway for USAC Silver Crown Championship Dirt Car Racing. And at the moment, Ken Schrader leads over Bob Ciccone and Steve Butler. We'll be right back. We're back at Phoenix International Raceway, and Jeff Swindell has fire coming from the engine compartment on that race car, and a big puff of smoke as he gets off the accelerator and goes into turn number 1. Jeff Swindell has been very fast this year on the dirt tracks, but is having problems here this afternoon. Once again, let's go to the pit area. Gary Lee.
Well, here is the first of the pit stops that we anticipate today. It is the Genesee Beer Wagon. Kenny Jacobs has blistered a right rear tire. Obviously, they went to the wrong compound to start this race. You can see this is the only car equipped with the pneumatic air jacks. They released the jacks, and Kenny Jacobs is underway. But it's going to be a costly pit stop for the Genesee Beer Wagon. And right behind is Jeff Swindell. Jeff Swindell makes a stop in car number 12.
But of course, Gary, that's more than just a routine pit stop, because we saw fire and some smoke coming from that race car. They're going to have to go into the engine compartment, I believe, on the Jeff Swindell machine. And now Gary Bettenhausen also has a problem as he drops low on the racetrack and smoke comes from that car. More on the Swindell situation. Here's Gary.
The Bob Gallows crew goes to work on car number 12 as Jeff Swindell sets in the cockpit. The engine was dead as he motored through the pit area. And also now in the pit area is Gary Bettenhausen, a 2-time national champion in this division, a 2-time winner of races here at the Phoenix International Raceway. And the hood apparently is coming off car number 79. This is actually a sister car to car number 12 that we have just seen, driven by Jeff Swindell. So could we have identical engine problems? However, the engine is still running in Gary's car. The engine remains silent in Jeff Swindell's number 12.
But although the engine may be running, it does not sound well in that Gary Bettenhausen car. Ken Schrader from Benton, Missouri, now living in North Carolina, is leading this race. He has led since lap number 12.
For Ken Schrader, as well as all the other people running up front, the word is delicate. You have to have just the right touch. Oh, and something has come off of Ken Schrader's car. We were commenting on it a few laps earlier, Bob. He was very lucky that whatever it was came off, did not puncture the right rear tire on Ken Schrader. But Ken Schrader, we'll take a look at it. You can see it. Yes, it looks like a shock absorber. You can see it coming off and almost bullseyeing that right rear tire. A very lucky man. It was a very precarious position in the racetrack for that to happen.
Yeah, went behind the tire. Had it fallen off and the shock had been run over by the tire, he could have been in serious trouble. But Ken Schrader, although he has lost that right rear shock, continues in the lead. What effect might this have on the car, Larry? Will it make it harder to handle?
Much harder. It's probably going to discover that it's going to be like driving a boat. You know, if you've ever been in a speedboat, you make turns. It does not make sharp, crisp turns. It just kind of leans that direction. And also, it's a very soft feeling. You don't have a sense that you have a hold of the racetrack, and it's real difficult to predict what the car is going to move. and in particularly precarious situations like stopping or trying to make sudden moves, Ken Schrader could really be at a disadvantage. Talking about tires, Gary Lee has more comments from the pits about that.
A major concern this weekend has been tire wear. Because of the range, we've had very little practice for these Silver Crown cars. They really weren't sure what compound to use. Do they go hard so they can go the distance? Do they go soft so they can get more speed? This is what happens when it gets too hot. The tire blisters. This is the tire off Larry Rice's car. He blistered this in only 27 laps. The feature is 100 laps in length. The question now is, can he go the distance without stopping again?
Ken Schrader leads here at Phoenix International Raceway. In second position is Steve Butler, but Schrader is beginning to pull away from the rest of the field. And Rick Hood has spun down in turn number 1. He has either lost a tire or made contact with the outside wall and spun down to the infield. In any case, you can see Rick Hood climbing out of the car. It brings out the first caution of the afternoon.
In a market for a used tire? Rick Hood climbing out of the car, he is okay. Ken Schrader continues to lead this event. Schrader has to be paying attention to what's going on in terms of tire wear for everybody. Boston Louis Seymour's car is running very well. Gary Lee is there.
Here's Boston Louis Seymour, the owner of car 29, presently leading with Kenny Schrader. We're seeing lots of tire wear. Some crews believe they may have to stop twice. Your driver wants to lead. He's leading now. Can he go the distance on one stop or maybe without a stop?
We're going to try and go the distance without a stop. But we're watching the tire, and it looks good right now. We won't know. We want to go beyond the halfway mark if we can before we come in for a tire.
Obviously, you had some compound choices. Just how hard did you go with the right rear?
We went as hard as we could go.
All right, there you have it, as hard as they can go. Now let's see how long that tire will last.
Well, there is a veteran car owner in the United States Auto Club, Boston Louis Seymour, the owner of Ken Schrader's car. And here is Rusty McClure, who has come in for a stop. He's replacing that right rear tire. Looks like the work is complete, and the pit crew shoves Rusty McClure down pit road and back into the race. Other pit stops are being made, changing the standings of this race as we are under our first caution. Schrader is the leader, followed by Ciccone, Trey House, Dave Blaney, and Jack Hewitt. And there is 6 through 10. And we will be right back with more from Phoenix. The green flag comes back out, and we resume racing after a caution period brought about by Rick Hood, spin down in turn number 1. And Ken Schrader still has a lead. Bob Ciccone is right on his tail, however.
Ciccone is closer than he has been at any time during the last 10 laps. He probably figured this was the moment he would have for an opportunity, if any, the next few laps of this race, to try and out-jump Schrader at the green flag. He out-jumped him. It wasn't quite enough.
Larry, if you look real closely, especially as Schrader comes off of corner number 4, you can see that car jump around, and we assume that's because of the shock absorber that he lost on the right rear of that car a few laps ago.
It's an interesting phenomenon. It's difficult to predict just how much of a handful that car is. But, you know, Schrader has not been running these dirt cars on a regular basis, lots and lots of miles in his career. He's been running the very heavy Winston Cup stock cars for most of 1987. And Ciccone may have him this time, Bob. He's way down on the inside, and Schrader slams the door shut. It looks easy, but that was a very tricky maneuver.
The third car there is Kenny Jacobs, the number 56 Genesee beer wagon. However, he is 1 lap down, trying to gain back the lap. He did make a pit stop a few laps ago, so Kenny Jacobs, the third car there, is not in a battle for position, as are Ciccone and the leader, Ken Schrader.
One of two things is happening right now. Schrader does have a problem that we really can't get a full sense of up here, and he's being a little more careful than he was in the earlier laps when he had a free racetrack when he first got the lead. Or tire temperatures cooling down between the right rear on Schrader's car and on Ciccone's car are making the difference right now, allowing Ciccone to go quicker than he was.
Well, here's 5th, 6th, and 7th. That's Bob Fry in the yellow number 20, followed by Steve Butler, and then Jeff Bloom.
Jeff Bloom, the Michigan race driver, one of the few drivers running in this race today, along with Schrader, who has been in a stock car on a super speedway. Fact is, Jeff Bloom in that white car with the red trim has won on a super speedway a USAC stock car race.
And the black car running ahead of Bob Fry, that's Steve Chassie, and this black car that's now moving up alongside Jeff Bloom is driven by Californian Brent Kading.
Kading is having a good race. He started on the outside of the 10th row. Not known for his savvy on pavement, Kading is giving this big championship dirt car a great ride today here at Phoenix.
Now pulling alongside Bob Fry, coming off of corner number 4. That is Steve Butler to the inside, trying to take away that 5th position. Trey House is right ahead of Steve Butler, and Butler is going to pass both of them, it looks like. Yes, indeed, he does. And here comes Bob Fry, shooting to the inside of pole sitter Trey House, who has not been on the pace at all this afternoon.
Well, the Butler did it. Here's a man who was seemingly a natural behind the wheel of an open-wheel race car. When he emerged in USAC sprint car racing about 5 years ago, he emerged at the front.
Fry, don't forget, running that V6 powered race car, leading Jeff Bloom and Trey House. And now there is Brent Kading on the outside of Trey House in corner number 2 as the cars come off the first corner down a very short straightaway and then into the dog leg.
In all forms of racing, you see it, be it Winston Cup or Card Indianapolis cars or Silver Crown dirt cars. Yeah, going fast in qualifying is important, but the successful teams and drivers are the ones who are able to maintain that speed consistently throughout the entire race. Trey House is very lean on experience. First time ever on pavement. Yeah, he qualified well, but that's the problem. He lacks the experience, not in terms of driver skill, but in preparing the car and also kind of pacing yourself.
Bob Fry leading Jeff Bloom and Brent Kading. Now here comes Bloom to attempt the challenge for the position as we go back up front. Schrader is leading, but Jeff Swindell again pulls to the inside of the racetrack for the 2nd time in this event with a badly smoking engine.
I tell you, it looked terminal before. I don't know how they pasted it together and got it back out as it was. Dave Blaney leading this trio down the dog-legged backstretch here at PIR. Dave Blaney 1 lap down to Jeff Bloom, who's trying to get as close as he can to the top 5, along with Bob Fry in that V6, as Bob mentioned.
Ken Schrader continues to lead here on the pavement at Phoenix. Jeff Swindell has come into the pit area once again. They remove the cowling from the front of that car and go to work in the engine compartment. A recurring engine problem has once again reared its head in Jeff Swindell's machine. Once again, here is the number 84 car of Dave Blaney.
Bob, I'll be very surprised if any of the front runners can go the distance without a pit stop for a change of rubber. Unless Ciccone or Schrader is being extremely careful with the right rear and the right front for that matter, it's going to be real difficult.
Good racing going on all around this racetrack. There is the number 20 car once again of Bob Fry. We'll be back with more of the Checker Classic. ESPN Speedworld today at Phoenix International Raceway for USAC Silver Crown Championship Dirt Car Competition. Bob Fry, the number 84 car, belongs to Dave Blaney. Right behind him is the 44 car of Duke Cook, then Brent Kading and Trey House. There is Brent Kading pulling alongside now of veteran Duke Cook out of turn number 1.
Bob, this is also the fastest racetrack that these upright championship dirt cars will run on. They'll get more speed out of these cars on a mile pavement like this with these big sweeping turns than they will anywhere else. We mentioned at the beginning of the show when we were taking a ride around the pace car the potential maximum top speed, 190 miles an hour. That is for the Card Indy cars. These champ dirt cars might peak at just about 150 before they shut off going into the first turn. Duke Cook in the middle of your screen, hiking that left front way off the ground. Now, a lot of drivers are comfortable with that, but Duke may be overdoing it just a bit. Not Duke, but his car.
Schrader, the NASCAR veteran who this coming year will be involved with the Rick Hendrick Winston Cup team, is the leader. Bob Ciccone, who was running second, has come in for an unscheduled, we presume, pit stop. We'll continue to keep our eye on him and perhaps get Gary Lee down there for a report a little bit later, but Ciccone is having a problem and has come into the pit area.
You figure with a bunch of people who are not accustomed to running on pavement, don't have any experience, there should have been 5 or 6 yellow flags in this race, and the front runners, if they plan on coming in, would come in on one of those yellow flags, but we have not had that many. Fact is, the yellows that we have had have been for mechanical problems, not driver error on a racetrack.
Ken Schrader continues to lead this race, and Bob Ciccone still having worked on that car in the pit area. Looks like they're putting the cowling back over the engine and have hopes of getting him back out onto the racetrack. Bob Ciccone, there's his brother Lou and his father Lou Sr. on the right side of the race car as they prepare to shove him back into competition. Schrader leads at Phoenix.
Schrader's performance is particularly impressive because of the lack of seat time that he's had in this type of car. We've seen him run regularly. And Trey House almost losing it as running on the high side is Brent Kading out of Northern California. The pole sitter Trey House really struggling, and that looked like a wearing tire situation that contributed directly to that, Bob.
Schrader with a substantial lead on the rest of the field. He's making a shambles of this race. Took over the lead at the completion of 11 laps as they were coming down for the completion of number 12, and he has led this race since that time.
Bob, this is an important day for the United States Auto Club and the potential future of Silver Crown Championship dirt cars. You know, if this keeps up, we're not going to be able to call them championship dirt cars anymore, because perhaps this series will be running on dirt as well as pavement in the future, and maybe we'll start calling them upright roadsters before long.
5th and 6th here, Duke Cook, car number 44, and then Bob Fry in the V6 yellow number 20. And sweeping along outside of Bob Fry is the 84 car, and that is driven by Dave Blaney.
Dennis Wood, who is promoting the races here, along with Buddy Job, has recently announced the promotion of another Silver Crown Championship dirt car, if you allow us to continue to call them that, on pavement. Another mile coming up in June of 1988 at Milwaukee. And get this, it's co-promoted with A.J. Foyt as we look at 2nd and 3rd place, Steve Butler and Steve Chassie, who has had a great race for the last 10 laps. Of course, also a part of the annual bill of fare here at Phoenix International, the Copper Classic in late January, early February. And they have just announced that for the first time in PIR history, the Winston Cup stock cars are coming here in late 1988. And be rest assured that Kenny Schrader and his brand new Rick Hendrick ride, wrenched by Harry Hyde, he'll be back, I guarantee you.
And that'll be an interesting race also at Milwaukee on the mile pavement. These championship dirt cars, and the race co-promoted by A.J. Foyt, who has had much success on that oval. There's Ken Schrader in the number 29 Louis Seymour car, continuing to lead this race. And the best battle for position is between Steve Butler and Steve Chassie for 2nd.
And what of Chassie? We haven't commented about him very much today. Chassie is one of the most experienced drivers in this type of car in this race. He's got IndyCar experience and fast experience in open wheelers. Has he been biding his time, and has he saved all the rubber, plus all the horses under his hood? Is Chassie going to rear up and be a threat in the remaining laps of this race?
Bob Ciccone led the early portion of this race, fell back to 2nd, and then came in for a pit stop. Let's get more on the reason for that from Gary Lee.
Lou Ciccone, what's the problem?
The valve cover gaskets are getting blown out. The valve cover is loosening up, and it blew the gaskets out. Going on the side of the car.
Why wouldn't you take the chance while it was in to change the right rear?
Didn't have time to look at it. I didn't even think about looking at it.
All right, so they may weeks later they've made the tire change now because most of these people don't think they can go the distance.
Bob Ciccone back in competition. There's Brett Kading and Bob Fry, who are running very close on the racetrack. And there's Duke Cook going to the outside of Bob Fry in the dog leg.
I think Duke is a very good example, Bob, of somebody who has paced himself, and more importantly, paced the machine, because Cook has been running back real leisurely back between 10th and 15th in this race, but now he's been coming on stronger with each of the passing laps.
That's Brent Kading in the black number 96 leading this trio. Now is being challenged by Bob Fry, but Brent Kading had an unbelievably successful year in the sprint cars in California a couple of years ago, and has been running the Silver Crown Championship dirt cars for the past couple of years. There is Jim Childers in car number 88, who is very slow on the racetrack, pulling to the inside and heading for the pit area. Well, our mid-race recap here at Phoenix International Raceway in this 100-lap event shows you that the leader at the halfway point was Ken Schrader. He had led 40 of the 50 laps by about 8 seconds. There were 10 cars on the lead lap. We have only had one caution period for 9 laps. That when Rick Hood spun in turn 1. The Checker Classic from Phoenix International Raceway, a series of races we're bringing you today here on ESPN, the USAC Silver Crown Championship Dirt Cars. And the race is in command right now of Ken Schrader, who's been leading since the early going of this race and threatening to run away with it.
And Bob, what a thrill it must be for a racing driver knowing that he is in his prime. Ken Schrader is right now, and who knows how much laurels and victories the future will bring. In 1988, with the ride that he has lined up in Winston Cup stock cars, he could win as many as 6 races. He'll easily win over $350,000, perhaps as much as $750,000, depending upon how successful the team is. And as we have seen, he is still very proficient behind the wheel of these open wheelers.
Some good racing going on here in the back of the pack. That is Brent Kading, along with Jack Hewitt in the number 63 car, and behind him is Bob Fry. Hewitt has come on strong here in the last few laps, and Jack Hewitt today could claim the 1987 Silver Crown Championship.
Bob, I think basically he has done it. All he had to do was finish in the upper half of this field. He's gotten past the halfway point. He's still in competition. So Hewitt, we don't have the mathematical bottom line yet, but I think he's got it.
And he is 1 lap down to the rest of the field, but he just passed Brent Kading there rather easily on the inside of the racetrack in the dog leg. Jack Hewitt from the middle portion of Ohio has been very successful in the championship dirt cars the past few seasons. This, however, not especially a good day for him.
Another one of the many second-generation drivers. His father, Don, was a sprint car driver in the USAC division in the 1960s. Bob, I'll tell you what, I have seriously been pretty impressed with the way all of these drivers have handled this racetrack. This is a tough racetrack to run without aerodynamics. You're in the throttle about 3/4 of the way around this racetrack, and it makes it very tricky. Few of these drivers have any experience on pavement. This man, the leader, Ken Schrader, is one of the notable exceptions. Bob Fry came to this racing as a pavement specialist, but none of his racing was on these big racetracks.
And again, another tough weekend for Bob Fry. Yesterday, during qualifying, motor problems, and it would appear that perhaps the same type of problem has cropped up again today. So Fry is in the pit area while Ken Schrader continues to lap the field. And Larry, I think the USAC Silver Crown Dirt Car Division has a good thing going here with these races on pavement as Bob Fry moves off the line and goes back into competition. There are lots of paved ovals that these cars can run on, and I think it's a pretty good show. At least the fans here at Phoenix this weekend have thought so.
Bob, one other comment that distractors might make, well, yeah, sure, everybody's doing a good job, but all they're doing is racing up against a bunch of other dirt trackers. Well, I'll tell you, when you get to this level of race driving, there's no such thing as a clandestine drivers meeting before the race where they all get together and say, hey, let's go easy on each other. Believe me, these guys are flat out, and they're turning in a performance that is catching the attention of a lot of veteran observers here today at Phoenix. They're solid for a bunch of dirt trackers running on pavement.
Schrader has been leading for the last several laps, as a matter of fact, and really has no challengers at this point, with Chassis and Butler battling for second position, but well back of Ken Schrader. And notice the various lines that Schrader's car is traveling on this racetrack. Now there's Bob Ciccone and Steve Butler. Ciccone, remember, came in for a pit stop. He's trying to get back on the lead lap, or at least get one of the laps back. He is 5 laps down to the field.
Schrader potentially has 2 concerns. One, how has he treated the tires? And 2, the loss of that right rear shock. Is that going to be a factor later in this race? There's the battle for second place. Steve Butler on the inside and Chassis on the outside, Bob.
Chassis moves into second position now, going around Steve Butler. That car of Bob Ciccone's is in front of Steve Chassis. We'll be back with more of the Checker Classic from Phoenix International Raceway. Bob Jenkins, Larry Newber, and Gary Lee back at Phoenix International Raceway in championship dirt car racing. Bob Ciccone, Steve Chassis, and Steve Butler in your picture right now. Ciccone is 5 laps down to the field, but has one of the fastest cars on the racetrack. And just in the last couple of laps, Steve Chassis has taken over second position from Steve Butler.
Butler was the 1987 USAC Sprint Car champion, and he has a lot at stake in this race. He is the odds-on favorite for finishing second in Silver Crown points, the dirt cars you're watching right now, but he has to finish well ahead of Kenny Jacobs and Jeff Swindell. He's got Swindell covered. You saw Jeff having all kinds of problems a little earlier. Kenny Jacobs still got an outside shot.
Steve Butler has won the USAC Sprint Car Championship the last 2 years in a row. And he pulls alongside Steve Chassis now in turn number 1 as Butler is low and Chassis is high, but Chassis has the higher line going out of turn number 2 and into the dog leg. So a good battle here for that second position as Ken Schrader continues to lead.
A couple of race drivers definitely cut in the traditional mold of the hard-boiled American race car driver. Steve Chassis, who originally came to the Midwest out of Sunland, California, a veteran of Vietnam who once saved the life of a lady in the pits at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway when he was choking. He performed successful CPR on her. And Steve Butler, who emerged from the very tough Central Indiana sprint car circuit, we mentioned earlier in this show. Steve Butler has never, and Chassis and Butler come very close, kissing through turn number 3. Steve Butler has never been an unsuccessful race driver. He came out of the starting gates and went immediately to the top 5.
There is Ken Schrader, who is now lapping quite well into the field as he is passing Brent Cady in the backstretch of this racetrack.
Bob, I'm a little surprised at this torrid pace that Kenny Schrader is maintaining. He has a comfortable lead. He's had a yellow flag somewhere along the line here. He knows how superior he is to the rest of the field, but he continues to run very hard. But yes, if you are a veteran racing observer, you know the drivers will tell you when we're out front, Schrader goes way high. Oh, Schrader getting loose as he goes to the high side of Wally Pankratz, still maintaining that pace. The drivers will tell you, even when I am out front, I got to keep my foot on the throttle. If I get out of my rhythm, that's when bad things start to happen.
Schrader lapping slower traffic. There he goes around Tony Elliott in car number 18 and now Andy Hillenberg. That car almost got out from under him. It was without question the closest call that Ken Schrader has had in this race as the rear end got up into the marbles and he nearly spun the car last lap down in turn 1.
Leaning on the location of that missing shot.
But he has cleared this traffic now and has some clear racetrack ahead of him. And Bob Fry's problems are continuing. The driver of the V6 car, which had problems yesterday and is continuing to have some today. Let's go to the pit area, Gary Lee, and the owner of the car, Glenn Nibel. Gary?
Glenn Nibel, what was the problem with Bob Fry?
Then we got a miss in the motor, pretty bad miss in the motor. I don't know.
But obviously nothing was changed. Nothing was really even checked when he came in.
Yeah. In this situation, it ain't going to make any difference. You're either going to run or you're going to park it in the pit, so you might as well get all the laps you can get.
All right, so there's a guy.
That's at the end of the race.
There's a guy who's won 4 times here in the Copper Classic, twice in a Chevrolet V6. He's back out to go as far and as long as he can.
So Bob Fry still out on the racetrack, but well off the pace being set by this man, Ken Schrader.
Bob, Glenn Nibel is referring to the situation that this is not like Indianapolis, where if you have major repairs that need to be done on the machine, say in the first 20 or 30 laps, you have the time to do so and perhaps get back out and make up for lost ground. But we're late in the race. It's only a 100-lap race. You got serious problems. You're out anyway.
Gary Bettenhausen is also out of this race. He's pulled his machine in the pit area, has climbed out, and now Gary Lee has caught up with him.
Gary Bettenhausen, I know you had high hopes for the new chassis, but the engine didn't really give you a chance to test it.
Well, you know, Gary, being that we didn't get to practice the car at all because it's brand new, and we never got the car even running until just before qualifying. And, you know, it's just a matter of new car blues. We got a small oil leak in a valve cover gasket where it's hitting the exhaust manifold, and we just can't get it to seal.
With all the talk of maybe more pavement races for these cars next year, must be to your liking.
Yes, you know, we started 15th, and I went right on up to about 4th place, and I was really running easy trying to save my tires, and I think it would have been a good day if we'd have finished.
Well, that's the case. You got to finish to win. Not today for Gary Bettenhausen.
And despite that Gary Bettenhausen is out of the race, Larry, the attrition here this afternoon hasn't been all that bad.
No, it really hasn't. I've been not only impressed with the ability of the pilots behind the wheel, but of the crews in preparing the cars for this track. We mentioned this is completely foreign. And Ken Schrader, oh, that's going through the eye of the needle, isn't it? We mentioned before that these crews have not had an opportunity to prepare cars for a place like this, and they've done a very excellent job.
You know, Larry, a car that has been keeping up with Ken Schrader the last few laps is that black number 69 machine driven by Brent Kading. Now, he is off the lead lap. He is a lap down, but nevertheless, in the last few laps, he's been able to stay right with Ken Schrader.
If you can do it, I guess the best guy to follow around is the leader, Moses, or Schrader in this case, parts the waters, and you follow your way through.
Schrader is the leader with Butler running second and Steve Chassis third, and we'll be right back after this from the Checker Classic. We hope you're enjoying today's coverage of the USAC Silver Crown Championship Dirt Cars, part of the Checker Classic from Phoenix International Raceway. Ken Schrader being pursued by Brent Kading, who's a lap down. Bob Fry has dropped out of the race. Let's go to Gary Lee.
Bob Fry, when we call this your home track, we mean it's your home track because you moved from Ohio to Arizona, but it hasn't been kind to you this weekend. What put you out?
No, it hasn't been kind at all. I'm not sure. A magneto probably went out of it. It just started missing and sputtering, and it wouldn't run over about 4,000 RPM.
Obviously, this engine has been so successful in the sprint car here in the Copper Classic. The Silver Crown Champ car is a heavier car, a lot more fuel. Is the engine going to be in the future as successful with this chassis as it is in the sprint car?
No, it hasn't been, but I can't blame that on the motor or the chassis because the failures we've had have been magnetos, fuel pumps, and accessories that really would have gone wrong, whether it be in a sprint car or in a champ car.
So obviously, with the talk of maybe more pavement races for these cars next year, you have to look forward to 1988.
Oh, we do, and we'll keep trying to refine it, and I'm sure the Nibel crew, whatever we have wrong, they'll get it fixed.
Well, the V6 motor certainly is the motor of the future in Winston Cup and Grand National racing in NASCAR, but perhaps not quite what the championship dirt cars are looking for.
Jury's still out, Bob. It might be with so much research and technology being conducted by the major manufacturers on the V6 engines. There are several of them out. You'd never know. It might be part of the meaningful wave of the future. Bob, just a comment about Bob Fry. I look at Bob Fry and I think about people like Mac McClellan and Greg Leffler, how the changing face of racing changed their careers forever. Had people like McClellan, Leffler, and Fry come up in sprint car racing to the midget ranks and so on, the open wheel ranks 20 years ago, there is no question that they would be annual entrants and qualifiers for the Indianapolis 500 and on the IndyCar trail. But with the huge influx of road courses, of course, that we now all take for granted, it has really changed the career of a lot of American racing drivers.
Steve Butler and Jack Hewitt on the racetrack. Hewitt in the white number 63 will win it. Oh, close call there. That's Trey House, the number 2 car, a pole sitter on the inside, and Butler on the outside. And Hewitt had a narrow escape there as he tried to go between them, but Hewitt will walk off today with the 1987 Silver Crown Championship.
What you're seeing here is a racer. Jack Hewitt has a machine that obviously is not sticking around this 1 mile plus oval, but Jack Hewitt is manhandling it. He wants to race.
Right now shown down around 15th position, but he did pass second place Steve Butler. And here is Duke Cook, who was running so well, but is pulling behind the pit area and calling it quits.
It's always tough when you drop out. And there goes Jack Hewitt, who we were just watching a few moments ago, putting the car through its paces. And the car says, I'm tired, I'm getting out of this one.
So this may bring out a caution depending upon whether or not the USAC officials determine that there could be some oil on the racetrack. And if so, we are very close. The yellow is out, and we are very close to the end of this race, so it may end under yellow. We'll be back to find out. We are under caution at Phoenix for only the second time in this race, and this is because of Jack Hewitt's blown motor here on the front stretch. Now we have just a few more laps left, but there may be some strategy in the leader's pit.
The tires now are not the concern with the crew of Kenny Schrader. The concern now is, does he have enough fuel to go the distance? Under this yellow, he's making some frantic gestures from the cockpit, but the crew is not sure what those gestures may mean. They're waiting now. They have some fuel standing by. We may have a quick splash and go for your leader, Kenny Schrader.
But no, Schrader is going to stay out as the green and the white come out simultaneously. There's only one more lap to go, and if Schrader's fuel supply can hold on, he will win this event.
Well, Bob, points are not involved for Schrader. It's win or nothing, so there's no way he's going to come in inside the last 10 laps. And knowing Kenny as I do, he's very conversational in the cockpit. No radios in these cars. Maybe he's just lonely. Maybe he's just looking for somebody to talk to. I guarantee you Schrader's staying out.
Here he is off of corner number 4, and Ken Schrader has won the Silver Crown portion of the Checker Classic here at Phoenix International Raceway, despite a shock absorber that broke and then finally came off the car relatively early in the race. Schrader has manhandled this machine through 100 laps and has come home the victor.
I think the most amazing part of his race was his consistency. He took the lead within the first 15 laps of this event. There's his happy crew celebrating, and just never made any mistakes despite keeping his foot on the floor for the entire 100 laps.
So a great race. And look at Schrader having difficulty getting that car stopped because of the missing shock absorber on the right rear of that race car. An excellent victory this afternoon for Ken Schrader. Finishing in second position was Steve Chassis, who made a late pass of Steve Butler, who wound up third. Brent Kading was fourth, and Jeff Bloom finished in fifth position. Here's Gary Lee.
Kenny Schrader. A wreath of flowers here from Ted Lake. Go ahead, Ted, put them on him.
There you are, Kenny.
There you are, Kenny. Calling for Louis Seymour, the car owner. You know, congratulations, Kenny. You showed your form early. A lot of guys wanted to drive a conservative, easy pace. You did, and you started 7th, went right to the front. I have to ask you, how much right rear did you have left, and how much fuel did you have left?
Well, I'll tell you what, we were good in tires, and we were in good shape on fuel. You know, this is the only third time I've got to drive for Boston Louis and his whole family, and we're 2 out of 3 and broke leading the other one, so we'll be back.
It looked from the pit area like a real clean race. The drivers give you enough room out there when you were passing the slower cars?
Well, they really did. I think everybody paid a lot of attention today, you know, because we're running pretty fast here. I didn't see any incidents, any real close calls at all. You know, the track's wide enough where we got a little bit of room if we get in trouble.
I have to ask Boston Louis, your car owner back here, if we go to some more pavement races in this series, you think you could maybe lure him away a few more weekends from the Winston Cup?
You can talk him into it.
How about that? Look at that.
All you need is Kenny Schrader, and you can win, believe me.
There you go. 2 out of 3 with this team in car 29.
Our congratulations to Ken Schrader, the winner of the Checker Classic here at Phoenix. Let's review the top 10 finishers now. Finishing second with Steve Chassis. Steve Butler was third. Brent Kading fourth. And finishing in fifth position was Jeff Bloom. Now finishing in 6th through 10. 6th was Larry Rice. 7th, Gary Irvin. In 8th was Dave Blaney. Wally Pankratz was 9th. And Rusty McClure finished in 10th position. Well, the next event here at Phoenix International Raceway, the Copper Classic, the weekend of February.